I build model railroads. It's an important facet of my income and job. For the last year, I've been helping my client build a gargantuan single-deck HO scale layout in his garage. Working just 3 days a month, we've been able to make incredible progress, from an empty garage to a fully functional layout with scenery already in progress. I started with an on-site visit with work contingent on him cleaning out the entire garage. With some help, he did it, provided a great clean slate to begin work. The space itself is a 14 by 42 foot long, double-depth, single-car garage in a late 1940s tract home just south of San Francisco. It's interesting where my background education in industrial design comes into play in other fields. In this case, it was taking into consideration the physical constraints of the user's limited mobility. Also, there is a desire for chest-height viewing angles so he can see it from eye level when he's sitting in a comfortable chair. Designing a layout that is not only fun to operate, but easy to maintain, clean, and keep running well as the clients age so they can be enjoyed all throughout their lives. I tried something new. I used Oran's Trains program to get a feel for a layout design. I had mixed success as the program's scaling is kind of wonky. I did some deep diving into model railroad planning issues in John Armstrong's books to get a feel for how to maximize the space without having duck unders. My client had a lot of givens and druthers. He wanted a sizable yard, a logging line between a mill and a forest, a city with a brewery and other industries, and also an electric and urban branch line. Sometimes layout planning takes you in unexpected directions. We decided that to gain a lot of more extra space, we had to start by buying a new washer and dryer combo that was stacked to open up a lot more space in the garage. It ended up improving his life quite a bit, as now he has some high-quality appliances to keep everything clean as well. When I seek to build a layout for someone, I also help where I can to improve people's lives, either by helping them organize what they have, helping them divest unneeded models to replace them with appropriate ones, throw out or give away junk accumulated in layout spaces, and seeing where pain points in their lives are to allow more time to enjoy their hobby. One of the goals I had for this layout is that I wanted it to be a testbed for various construction and modeling techniques. We ended up building the layout using a few different types of benchwork to test their different advantages and disadvantages. We'll also be experimenting heavily with scenery to get some stunning state-of-the-art effects. He had a 45-year collection of stuff, from his first Macy's train set to large cab forward locomotives and even modern GP60 diesels. We carefully sorted through his entire collection and traded and sold equipment that did not match his era and locale for things that did. Now he has a much more concise and higher quality collection instead of a gargantuan discombobulated collection. There's always going to be some personal favorites kept, of course. My client also had carefully collected an immense amount of tools over the years, so beginning Benchwork was a snap. Learned from my days designing high-fidelity speaker systems, we decided to use half-inch Baltic birch plywood for the entire layout, since it's very stable and has very few voids or quality issues. During the spring and summer, we built most of the benchwork. Along the 42-foot wall, the entire yard is cantilevered from the wall using a variation on the Fremos standard, also inspired by David Barrow's domino modular approach. The balloon loops are classic L-girder benchwork with birch ply sub-roadbed. Next came the roadbed, and a kitten came to visit one day as we were figuring out the grade to the logging line. This will be the only cat that will ever be allowed on the layout. We waited an extremely long time for the Homosote folks to mail our order for roadbed. It took a few weeks. In the meantime, we bought more cork roadbed to fill the time, and both ended up working just fine. I feel the Homosote's unique perforated cuts work best on curves and grades, and the cork is great for tangent tracks and yards. I designed the layout to have visually separate iconic scenes spread out throughout the layout for visual delight and photographic interest. The most major of which is the river crossing at Island Mountain. I used a sawzall to cut into the module, lower the riverbed, and then added an adjacent highway. I soon began installing the bridge abutments. Building the pair of truss bridges for this gap is actually elsewhere on this channel, which you can watch here. I carefully studied how Warren truss bridges work and then carefully cut both of them down to bridge the gap just right. The larger, more modern arch bridge is a custom metal bridge by an unknown manufacturer. It's sturdy and beautiful, and will model the newer, more modern alignment for the double-track main line that for many years was only a single-track main line. Making sure the bridges fit just right also meant building the approaches on both sides. As there's a grade climbing out of the yard, in back and a grade coming up the solid granite tunnels from the lumber mill peninsula. Getting these right was tricky, but overbuilding them from leftover plywood and 2x2s seemed to work just fine. Summer turned to fall, and the track laying began in earnest. We decided to start with the yard, which will be tacked down with just track nails to perfect it until we're satisfied with the final layout. To date, it's been refined 3 times to allow for more realistic operation, better switch approaches, and to allow for a draw to switch cars without fouling the main line. Shortly afterward, the inner main line began working its way entirely around the layout, which led to a nice golden spike moment as we joined up the first inner and then the outer loop. Fine-tuning the track is always an essential part of layout building, and we agreed that no scenery obstructions would be built until we worked out all the major track issues. This took a couple of weeks and resulted in realigning main lines with some nicer, broader curves and rebuilding the yard ladders again. Stay tuned for the next installment of the Layout Construction series, in which we build a sawmill and begin some spectacular scenery. Please stop by the Inner Urban Era Patreon page for exclusive sneak previews of all of my modeling projects, as well as behind the scenes of the forthcoming Presidio Bay City Skyline series. This is Inter Urban Era.